YouTube family, this is Grown B, and today we're going to be talking about the state of offline play in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but it's going to require that you put your honesty underwear on for the duration of this video. Because I'm not trying to create a space just for complaining or regurgitating all the comments that we've already seen, like, this game wasn't even meant to be played online and competitively, it's just supposed to be with your friends. We get it. Or 90% of the player base left Steam. What are the developers thinking? Cycling the same three conversations. I just want to have a different type of discussion. Like when people complain about there being a lack of an offline content experience, that is the closest thing to an objective truth that I feel like has been going around when it comes to Sparking Zero. And this is the part of the conversation where you're going to need that uncomfortable honesty underwear that I was talking about. Because my question is, does the community believe that they put the developers in a position to give them the offline experience that they wanted? When we first heard that the Tenkaichi series was returning in the form of Sparking Zero, the biggest conversations were around who's going to be in the game and how big is the roster going to be. If you were following everything, people were already complaining about who they thought were going to be DLC before we even knew who the base roster was going to be. And then people started talking about, well, how is the game going to be balanced? More importantly, how is it going to be balanced for ranked? And so in the year leading up to the release of Sparking Zero, what wasn't a big talking point during that time? Well, I really didn't see a whole lot of people laying out what their expectations were for the offline experience. Now, people did make an extraordinary push to say we want split screen in the game. And when the developers heard that, they said, man, this is a really tough thing for the game that we're trying to make and we just don't see it getting in. And then they ended up adding it. See, I am under the belief that if the community was more vocal about what they wanted as their offline experience, then it would have made it into this build of the game, or there would have been information about when those types of modes are going to be coming. And one gentleman in one of my shorts made a decent point that I do still disagree with, and he said that the community shouldn't have to be vocal about the type of experience that they want, that they should just have brought everything over from Tenkaichi 3. And to me, that would make sense if Tenkaichi 3 was released 6 years ago. But I think it's a poor expectation for a game that was released 15 plus years ago and 3 console generations ago. And so I think it's that much more important for people to be able to kind of open up their mouth and say, hey, we wanted survival mode to come back. And to be honest, I would be surprised if they even had the data that says this is how much people were playing survival mode to give them an indication on whether or not that was something that should be in the game. So I think this is the nature of, like, you're bringing back a game that existed really in a different universe. And so there's always that element of, well, put your creativity hats on, right? You're artists, you're developers. Use a wealth of experience that you've had making games for years and years to create an offline experience for the Sparking Zero community. My Tenkaichi 3 experience, though, was overwhelmingly fighting with my friends. So I really didn't need much else. I didn't really play the survival mode. The story mode wasn't a big deal to me because I, again, had already played it several times in other Tenkaichis and other Budokai games. And since there was virtually no chance that the characters that I wanted to use would be left out of the game, I was pretty much fine after I saw the first few trailers. And even now, playing with my friends completely eclipses anything else I do in this game. And I think that's the impression that the developers got, that people wanted to fight amongst their friends and then beat other people up online and then start their journey of climbing all the way to Z rank. And it probably would have worked out and everyone probably would have been fine, but the community grossly underestimated how the toxic side of the community was going to be able to affect the game. And so whether people's friends are just too busy or they just don't have friends to play with, people are realizing that they want to turn away from the online aspect and they may be playing a little bit more on their own. And so now there is more attention being drawn to, well, what is there to do if I don't have my friends to play with and I don't want to go online and get spammed with Ki Blast and hit with an ultimate off of an Instaspark? And I think the developers believed that they were turning their attention to the things that the players and the community really wanted, and the expression of what was going to be available offline and in what form and what people would be excited about to do offline, and just those things, they just weren't very loud in the weeks and months and the year up until Sparking Zero eventually came out. And I don't think people give a lot of credit to, like, yes, they tried something with the custom battles and it just failed. And so that is just a part of the experience that just doesn't really get included in what people are trying to satiate themselves with when it comes to Sparking Zero right now. And so when I say, hey, did the community do their part? Did the community position the developers in a way where they could give the community the experience that they wanted offline? That's not a who are we going to blame type of situation that I feel like has been going on, and I've been a part of a little bit as well. I think this is well, how can we move this thing forward? Because I think there's still a lot of opportunities to tell the developers about the experience that they want throughout the game. And we could very well see a lot of offline modes and opportunities being added. And so in all of this time where people are saying, well, this is what I want to happen with key blast spam, and this is what I want to happen with InstaSpark, and this is what all of these different things that people are talking about that's affecting the online experience, this is your opportunity to use your voice and say, hey, that stuff is cool, but if I don't want to play online, these are the things that I would like to be able to do offline. And here's the thing, the biggest and most jarring issues when it comes to Sparking Zero are going to be fixed. The developers are not our evil stepsisters that don't want us to have a good time on the game. But there is a large part of the community that just has to get out of panic mode so that we can continue to say the right things as we have these open channels with the developers about the direction of Sparking Zero. Because listen, it's only been out about a month or so. I feel like there's so many more updates, there's DLCs, there's just so much more growth for this game. When I think about Dragon Ball FighterZ didn't get to its peak for me until 2 or 3 years after it was released. And I expect something similar for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And in some ways, I feel like we have done a good job as a community of letting the developers know what type of experience we want to have with Sparking Zero, and I think in some ways we haven't, but I think we can do more of the former if we're just a little bit more intentional about it, and that's just what I wanted to try to bring people's attention to. So here we are at the end of the video. If you like the video, like it. If you think someone else might like it, share it, and if you want to see more, I really hope that you would subscribe.
Don't make a sound, or it might be your last.